All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick and Taylor Kyles here for CLNS Media, back with another episode of the Patriots Daily Podcast, powered today by Prize Picks, by Raycon headphones, as well as by Monarch Money. And Taylor, it's also powered by, not hyperbole, the biggest Patriots win since their Super Bowl 53 victory over the Rams. I'm not saying that just to get things going, just to hype things up. They didn't win the playoff game against the Bills. Yes, they had a couple of nice wins in that little win streak with Mac Jones. They went to the playoffs, yada, yada. But this one felt different to me. And I'm kind of taking my podcast hosts, yada, yada, hat off for a second. That was sick. Like, that was just a sick Patriots win. Like, I don't know what more you could have asked for as a fan. You didn't think they were going to go in there and blow them out. I didn't think they were going to go in there and win. You said there was a chance. I thought that they could keep it close, but ultimately wouldn't get the win. And it kind of felt like it was trending that way, towards the back end of the fourth quarter there. They had that 3 and out. The Bills get the ball back. Looked like they're going to go score. But no, they tie it. And then Drake May comes in and wins the game for the Patriots. Dives him down, couple awesome throws. Andy Borregales, as we know, kicks it through the uprights. Patriots get to 3 and 2 and hand the Buffalo Bills, the class of the AFC, their first loss of the season. So we have a ton to get to. We will do our typical areas for improvement and areas for optimism for the team after their game. But I just want to get your sense, your thoughts, your vibes, your feel for what happened in Buffalo on Sunday night. Because like I said, it was awesome. I think it was everything Patriots fans could have asked for. Primetime spot, New England back on the map, all that good stuff. What was Buffalo like? And before we get into the nitty gritty of it, watching the film over, what'd you see? And, after watching it again, what were your impressions of exactly what the Patriots did on Sunday?
So going in, I thought they could win. Maybe not should, that would have been strong, but I felt like this was a team that they matched up pretty well with overall. But I was hesitant to say, yes, this is one you win, or really having any kind of feeling about like I did with the Panthers and the Steelers.
Yeah,
I was
right.
or even any of those games before that. I was like, yes, you should beat these teams, even if, you're still early on and there's going to be some adjustments you have to make. But we really haven't seen them show the level of mental toughness they did in a long time. Like I said, it was the best win that they'd had since beating Buffalo, that Mac Jones game where he came back. Because that was truly the last time I felt like, wow, that was some resilience. Like, this is a very tough opponent, and they actually held on and did what they had to do at the end of the game. Because that has just been a theme of the post-Tom Brady era, is just not really having the firepower, the coaching, what have you, to really stick in the game and then actually finish against these better teams. Or really, in general, we've also seen them, drop the ball against some pretty bad teams. So watching the tape really reinforced a lot of what I thought. I understand that Buffalo shot themselves in the foot plenty of times. I understand they played a sloppier game than they're used to in terms of not just penalties, but also just overall execution. Like, we did not get the best version of the Bills last weekend. And they were also missing Ed Oliver, who is their best player on defense. So throwing all those kind of grains of salt into the mix, I still thought that the defense played well. Like, the defense also had some penalties that kind of put them behind the 8 ball as well. Obviously, the Bills had far more. But even still, looking at it, I thought it was an impressive performance. The defensive line, I thought, worked well to mostly keep Josh Allen hemmed in. You're not going to do it for an entire game, just like no one can really do that to Drake May for an entire game. And both teams, I thought, did better than you usually see. But both guys still were able to make their plays because they're just freaks of nature. But in terms of minimizing the explosives and even the quality of the big plays they gave up, I wasn't devastated. There are some things they definitely need to work on, and we'll talk about that. But really, it just looked like this is a team that, as you go on through the year, if they can remain healthy, knock on wood, obviously losing Antonio Gibson was huge. But I think if this offense and defense can stay relatively healthy, they should just continue to get better. They play very tough, and I think the Saints game, not to get too far ahead, I think the Saints game will be another very good test because, okay, you can beat the Bills. Can you now have a different level of mental toughness to stay locked in when you know you're about to play 3 not very good teams, but teams that also have some veterans who can, not beat up on you necessarily, but that can take advantage of you if you walk in and you think that they should be taken seriously. So a great step in the right direction. Sometimes you look at the film and it's a little fugazi. There are some things where you're like, I didn't like that very much. Like the Raiders game on offense, it kind of felt like that, where it might have felt a little bit better live, but then looking at it, I was like, there were a lot more missed opportunities than we realized. Even what was it? I think it was what was it? It was like 2 games before. I just thought Drake missed a lot of downfield opportunities, even though he technically
Miami.
Maybe it was Miami,
or
where it just felt like there were a lot of open opportunities that he didn't necessarily exploit, but they still did pretty well. This was one where, yes, could they have done things better? 100%, but it was a very encouraging effort and didn't just feel like the Bills rolled over or, oh, you got lucky because the Bills sucked that day. Like, yeah, they had to play better, but Mike Vrabel said he wants to take advantage of bad football, and for the most part, not always, because they didn't always capitalize on turnovers, but I thought that was what they did for the majority of the game.
Well, a couple of things there. You mentioned not capitalizing on turnovers. Like they had a couple where it looked like they had themselves a chance. They made it happen. Buffalo fumbles, and then New England fumbles right after. Or they have the interception and they don't go and turn it into 7 points right away. So, on that note, it's like they did play toe-to-toe with the Bills because it wasn't like Buffalo just threw up all over themselves. Like they still played a good game. The Bills came out and scored a touchdown at the beginning of the second half. They answered multiple times against the Patriots, and the Patriots answered back. So, these last couple of weeks have been sort of, and that's what it was going to be in year one of Mike Vrabel and Drake made together, but just one big test because that Miami game, they didn't play well. They started poor, but then they found a way to win in the end. And it was like, okay, we can play bad football and still find a way to win. And then the Pittsburgh game, it turns into, well, we threw up all over ourselves. We had the 5 turnovers and then we did lose. Right. And so like, that was a tough loss, but now it's a Buffalo team that is actually good, is actually a contender. And you go in there and you go toe-to-toe throughout the entire game. Drake May gets that game-winning drive that we've kind of asked for him. And then you're right now moving forward. It's another test. Keep the foot on the pedal. Don't give up. Don't give in. Don't get, too big of a head. Don't get ahead of yourselves. And I don't think this team will, just from the leadership, mentality from the top down. But it's easier said than done, especially with a new group. So definitely, like you said, a huge step in the right direction for this Patriots team overall. We will get into, all these areas for optimism and a couple for concern. But do want to talk about the running back room as a whole right now. Obviously, Ramondre Stevenson scores 2 touchdowns in that game. He did have the big fumble to make it his 3rd of the season. But unfortunately, running back Antonio Gibson goes down on the kick return. It was a torn ACL, as has been reported, and he is going to be out for the season. Patriots signed running back Jashaun Corbin to their practice squad, 25-year-old, went to Florida State, went to Texas A&M, only has 1 career carry in the NFL. But what they also did is bring in a couple other free agents for tryouts, which included Deion Jackson and Damian Martinez, who is someone who a couple people now have floated out. I know you talked about him earlier in the pre-draft process. Phil Perry, I guess, mentioned him today on his Reddit AMA thing he did today as well. So a little bit of buzz there, but with Stevenson's fumbles, with Gibson out, with Henderson not getting a ton of run here, and with these other guys coming in, just your reaction, your thoughts to the running back room as a whole, and who can kind of factor in now that they're going to be down Gibson for a little while.
Well, first, so in terms of the additions, I'm not familiar with anybody but Damian Martinez, who I actually thought reminded me a lot of Ramondre Stevenson during the draft. So that would make a lot of sense stylistically. And like we said, you kind of just want a guy who's not going to turn the ball over, who's going to get the yards that are there. Like, this doesn't need to be a fantastic talent or anything. It just needs to be someone who's consistent and is also smart enough to pick up the offense, because you'd like this to be someone who has some ability to be able to contribute in pass pro, because God forbid something happens to Ramondre, you're kind of screwed in that department because you don't really have anybody at that point. We said that it probably wasn't going to be Terrell Jennings, although obviously he's on the roster. He's familiar with the system. He doesn't have much NFL experience. So, I mean, to be fair, none of these guys really do.
Right.
That's to be taken into consideration as well. So it'll just be interesting to see how they move forward if they end up signing someone to the active roster. Also, once I look into Jashaun Corbin more, I'll be able to give more analysis. I've been cramming film because, as you know, this is happening a day late because yesterday was a big travel day. But in terms of the running back room, I will push back against TreVeyon Henderson, like not getting a lot of reps. Like, he does. I understand people want to see him more, but I think it's because they don't notice him because he's not getting a billion targets or touches, but he's still getting a lot. He's still on the field a very good amount. Like, even with Antonio Gibson, he was clearly the running back too. So I just don't really understand. No, that's not fair. I understand.
Well, no, but there was the second Ramondre came out of the game, Henderson ended up as that, lead back. Or I'm sorry, once Gibson went out, Henderson was the lead back. Yeah. But there was a drive where he was, I formation behind Drake May under center. It's like, all right, they're going to give him a goal. They're going to give him the ball. and they went 3 straight passes. I think it was 3 or 4 and out. So like he's in the game, but again, they're not dialing it up like I think that people thought they would, whether by design or just handing him the rock. So I'm with you. I do think he's been out there, but people want to see more of the kid, especially how promising he was, over the summer.
Yeah, and that's the thing I understand is he was exciting and we hyped him up. So, it does make sense that people who aren't like locked in like we are confused as to why he's maybe not producing more. But he is involved. The issue is that he just isn't quite there yet. Like in pass protection, after the game, I tried to give him some flowers for the fact that I did see some level of growth. But then on like the flea flicker, he not completely misses, but he's like significantly delayed when it came to actually looking for the linebacker and trying to drop him. And you see that a few times when he's in pass pro, where it just feels like he's not processing things at the right speed, and it's glaring. So is he going to continue to come along? I mean, he's going to have to because he's going to get more touches and more snaps. But you have to remember he's a rookie too. And even though, running backs are probably the position that comes in the league the most and is able to just pop off instantly, that's not the case for everyone. So I ask that people be a bit patient with Travion, not necessarily in terms of his role. He's going to be used a lot once again. But in terms of his production, like this is a guy who's adjusting to the speed of the NFL, who's still trying to find like what he does best in the pros in terms of like how he's able to maneuver certain situations. So, that's my only pushback because Travion plays a lot. And obviously that's going to be more. Y'all are going to get your wish. I'm a little worried, but
I was going to say, it does feel like, again, there was a hype train this summer. It wasn't an unwarranted one. He did look good in the preseason. He did look good in practice. You mentioned it on the show, and it kind of reminded me that, he was like their best downfield receiving threat at one point in the summer, hitting wheel route after wheel route with Drake May in coverage against some of the Patriots linebackers. But again, when push comes to shove, we talked about the red shirt season that these rookie running backs have had under Josh McDaniels. It's not easy to just pick up and go from college to the pros and do it. And the pass protection, same thing. They're different beasts out there from who he took on even in the Big Ten last year at Ohio State. So bit of a learning curve for him. Again, we'll see. Now he's kind of going to be forced into more action given Gibson's injury, given Stevenson. We'll see what happens with him in the room. I know that he kind of bounced back a little bit with the 2 touchdowns, but they still weren't great in the ground game, which we'll get to later on the show. But we got a comment on screen too. How's he going to actually continue to grow in transition without more consistent snaps? Well, he's going to be kind of forced into it now, but
also practice. Practice. Obviously, yes, like you get better at football by playing football, but also if you're not seeing things quickly enough, that's going to show in practice. And if it is showing in practice, it's the reason that you see, I think they're putting a little bit more on his plate incrementally, which that's where the point is fair, where you can't just completely say, we can never keep him in pass protection. You got to give him some snaps to really earn that trust in live action. But practice is where a lot of that happens. But once again, doesn't really matter at this point because they do not have the depth to not play Travion more. So
exactly. He's going to be out there. But at any rate, let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to 4 areas of optimism from this Patriots win. We're going to start off with Drake May. But before we do that, I do have to tell you about our friends over at Prize Picks because, as you know, this episode and every episode of the Patriots Daily Podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. So don't miss out on any of the excitement this football season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Again, all you got to do is pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. And if you get your picks right, you can cash in. We were just one pick off on our Patriots daily lineup this weekend. Milton Williams had more than a quarter of a sack. And Keon Coleman went less than his number on receiving yards. I forget exactly what it was. But Drake May, we just missed him on the rushing yards. But that's okay because he made it happen throughout the past game. We will continue to have lineups every primetime game across the entire CLNS Media Network here at 4 Prize Picks. So make sure you check it out. They put their users first. Withdrawals are safe and secure. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more. So it's quick and easy to deposit into your account for the entirety of football season. So if you want to get in on the Prize Picks action with us, download the app today, create an account, and use code CLNS, and you'll get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Shout out our friends at Prize Picks. I know we just missed it on the Patriots Bills one, unfortunately. Drake May didn't get it going on the ground, but he did get it through in the air, which is what we're going to get to right now on our first segment for areas of optimism with this Patriots team. Because Drake May, was the guy on Sunday night. Everybody knows it. We know he was the guy. 22 of 30 passing for 273 passing yards and 101.1 quarterback rating. Just ridiculous throws across the board. We know about the big ones. We know about the Diggs connection that we saw throughout the entire game. But the layered throw to Hunter Henry was awesome. The whole shot to Kayshon Boutte that he hit in that 2-minute drill to get them in the field goal range was probably, I thought, his most impactful throw of the night. So he was outstanding. The Josh Allen comparisons, like you said on postgame, Taylor, it's not a comparison to Josh Allen. He's Drake May. He's a new guy. He's his own player, and he's playing top 10, if not even close to top 5 quarterback this year. That's not, again, it's not an exaggeration. It's not hyperbole. It's in the numbers. So take us through what you saw from the quarterback on Sunday, because he truly was outstanding. And I would say was the reason they won this game on Sunday night.
Yeah, this is a defense that threw a lot of disguises at him. And I will say there were some that maybe got him to hold on to the ball. And he wasn't perfect. I think the Bills, being a team that has Josh Allen, understands how a lot of these young, running gun kind of, not running gun. That's a whole system. That's the wrong thing to say. But these gunslinging kind of quarterbacks, like they know how they like to operate. Where there were times where, and I'll kind of get to this later, and some of the things he could maybe get better at as well. There were some times they would rush 3 and spy and basically just collapse the pocket so that Drake said, "Ooh, I have an edge," and then he would run. But then there'd be a very athletic linebacker who was able to chase him down and kind of nullify what he was able to do. But that was also a hit or miss strategy. So really, I was impressed with Drake's maturity and the fact that for the first time we saw him really execute a final drive in a very meaningful, hostile environment, and not just do it effectively, but make some pretty bonkers plays. So on that final drive, the Diggs completion where he's getting dragged down, that was the same counter bash play they tried last week. And then he had like Hunter Henry and Stefon Diggs running routes. Drake ended up handing it off to Travion Henderson for a solid gain. This time, it was a slightly different front, so Garrett Bradbury couldn't actually get to the defensive tackle, who was aligned wider than he had been the last time they tried it. That led to Drake getting quickly pressured and somehow being able to stiff arm the guy and get the throw off to Diggs was fantastic. The whole shot while he was being hit, insane. Like, it's hard enough to hit a whole shot when you're clean, but to do it right before, like literally watching it live, I was like, oh, he's about to get hit. I thought something really bad was about to happen, but he managed to not only get it off. So I'm like, oh, wow, he actually threw the ball. And oh, wow, that's between 2 defenders. Incredible recognition for him to be able to do that. And also the awareness, as we mentioned in the postgame show, to keep the clock running. He looked really disappointed with himself after it. Like Vrabel kind of went over and looked like he was like, hey, man, like you're good, because he didn't throw it away. He didn't run out of bounds. I think he wanted to get more yards to make it an easier field goal, because obviously it wound up being a 52-yarder. But still, great awareness. And that's what Mike Vrabel said he was here for, right? I'm here to teach him situational awareness, make sure that he's his best in those situations. So starting at the end, but that final drive was fantastic. And
sneaky to not lose them yards in that situation either, right? Because you are like right on the edge.
He broke a tackle. Yeah,
it's a rookie kicker. It's 52 yards. Like, I know I keep referring back to postgame, but we talked about it a little bit where, there's a number that these kickers give their coaches, and whether it was 52, whether it was 60, like you're kind of right on the line of make or miss right there. And, we know now he nailed it and would have been good for freaking 90 yards. That thing was a boot. But again, it was good for him to get right back to the line of scrimmage, not lose them anything either, while keeping the ball or keeping the clock running and protecting the ball.
Yep. So the final drive, that's the kind of thing that I think is always going to get talked about in his career, where it's like, what was the first time that like Drake May arrived? It's got to be this, right? So that final drive was fantastic. Also, just the off-schedule playmaking outside of just that drive. So the scramble completion that he had to Diggs was fantastic. They gave him a soft edge. I believe Hunter Henry chipped, which was a big reason that he even had that, because it was off a play-action fake. Drake goes outside, gestures for Stefon Diggs to take off deep, and then to put that thing on a rope, because there was a safety closing in. So it wasn't like it was this easy throw where you just kind of lob it up and you can put it wherever. Like, he had to put that on the money, and he did. So that was incredibly impressive. Also, the sideline completions that he had that were a little bit shorter to Diggs and Pop, where he's rolling out. We've seen that in other weeks where he's pretty good when he is rolling to his right. And, when the receiver is able to come back to the ball, putting it in a catchable spot. I really thought he did a great job on those. The deep throws to Hunter Henry, 2 more deep catches for Hunter. Yep. He's having a really impressive season, even on a day where he was, again, it was like last week where he wasn't quite as involved as he was in some earlier games, but obviously still making a huge impact. So on the play action shot where Hunter Henry's running the crossing route on the 2-man concept, that was the second time they'd actually run that. The first time, Drake threw short to Travion Henderson. I'm curious if he honestly still could have. I think he could have gone downfield on that play, but he checked it down quickly. I understand why the coverage kind of bailed out really quickly. Our buddy Tyler DeSena did a great job breaking that down if you kind of want more of the nitty-gritty on that. But the second time, Drake had plenty of time in the pocket, really good protection, and then he kind of like flips his body and eyes towards the shorter throw to that side, because I think Jack Westover or somebody had kind of hit one of the edge rushers and then leaked out. He did that to create more space and then threw the ball right over coverage where only Hunter Henry could get it. That was really, really impressive. And then the seam throw he had where it was a two deep zone. And the most impressive part about that one was I'm pretty sure that he was trying to go right to Kayshon Boutte because he starts there. There were some times where he'd hit him along the sideline in one-on-one coverage. This time, the Bills had cloud coverage where there was an underneath defender, but also somebody deep over the top, so he couldn't really hit any kind of vertical ball or anything underneath. They just took it away. Was fine. He knew he had pass protection, came off of that, and he actually threw it to Hunter pretty late where, like, that was Mac Jones. Might have ended up very differently. No offense to him, but he just doesn't have that kind of arm. But with Drake, he can just rip that thing, put it over the linebacker between the safeties, and Hunter caught it, immediately braced, and then got tackled. So two really impressive deep throws for Drake May. That's just a kind of veteran type savvy that I really like. And against these disguised coverages, Drake does a very good job at responding, not only just not like staring guys down and putting it in a position where that, like we saw with Patrick Mahomes, where one of those defenders can kind of leak out late and read your eyes to the play. Obviously, that was a crazy play by Devin Lloyd, by the way.
Yeah, it was
God, absolutely nuts. But on that 3rd and 3, where he's trying to hit Stefon Diggs, he's running a little under route. They made it look like man, but then they dropped into zone, which made it so that there was a zone defender basically coming right downhill. Would have taken Diggs' head off if Drake had let him forward. He said he threw it behind. I think he was trying to, do a solid for his guy. Diggs responded a little bit late, didn't get it, but I love Drake's ability to protect receivers and do it consistently where he is able to kind of see the changes in space and adjust accordingly. Exploited Tre'Davious White on that defensive pass interference where if you just see that casually, you might not think much of it. Like, okay, it was a desperation heave, whatever. That's a smart play because it was 3rd and forever. They had almost no shot of actually converting that. Like all the routes were covered. They ran like a spacing or a bunch of curls, and the Bills dropped a bunch of defenders. Drake said, all right, let me try to buy some time with this or do what I can. Seeing that White's back was to him, he just threw it right there. And also Stefon Diggs did a great job to come back through the cornerback because if he had just like fallen back, it might not have done as well. But he made an attempt to catch it, and Tre'Davious, I'm sorry. Oh, that's tough. Tre'Davious White wasn't looking at the ball. Again, just a very savvy heads-up move from Drake May there. Also, the anticipatory throw he had to Kayshon Boutte on a curl route where Kayshon was not in his break, was like basically initiating his break, and Drake let that thing rip for a completion. Also had a really nice comeback that was 20 yards downfield or something. So those were also really good. That was all the positives. So just to summarize the good stuff, the final drive was fantastic. Again, something I think we're always going to mention when we talk about if Drake May is able to write a legacy and continue along the trajectory, that's going to be basically his coming out party. The off-schedule playmaking where he's able to hit Diggs a couple times, also hit Demario Douglas, deep throws to Hunter Henry, some veteran savvy mix in there to read out coverage well and exploit what the defense was doing on certain plays. Those were all fantastic. Now, to be nitpicky, I would have liked him to protect himself a little bit better in this one. There were times where I thought he ran into sacks. Sometimes where, once again, they were spying him with 3 rushers, and he just left the pocket. It worked for him sometimes, didn't work for him at others, and I thought he could have just kind of stayed in the pocket and maybe let things develop downfield. One of them was an off-schedule throw to Stefon Diggs in the red zone where he basically immediately bailed out. This was another 3rd and long situation, though, so I want to give him some benefit of the doubt. But still, it just felt like a little premature, like maybe something could have developed. But that one's a little bit nitpicky. What I didn't love was a 3rd and 5 late in the 4th quarter where he bailed almost immediately, like nothing was even close to actually getting to the top of the route. And I thought he might have had a couple options there. Even if he had to check it down, I thought it would have been a positive. But I understand it's a late game situation, young quarterback, but that's kind of situation where it's like, hey, stay in the pocket. Though there were just a few times where I thought he could have maybe settled in a couple reps. Ran into a sack in the 2nd quarter when it looked like he had either oh my God, this is going to be annoying.
Tre'Davious what? Oh, Travion Henderson.
Last name, where he had Henderson in the flat, and Kayshon Boutte was kind of getting open on the sideline between some zone defenders. but Drake ends up running into the sack there. There were some sacks that he ran into that I didn't really mind, like the coffee house with Jared Wilson, where there was pressure in the pocket, and I don't know if he really did have time, but that was one where I thought he could have hung in there. He also took some big hits. There was the one he took to the head, which wasn't necessarily his fault, but I just get it's so cool watching what this kid's able to do. I'm just like, please, like don't.
Especially because we saw it a couple times last year. He went out and he got his bell rung, and more than his bell rung,
PTSD.
He had the concussion, and even last week he slammed his head and grabbed it, and everyone was like, "Oh no, he's going to go out," and he ends up coming back in. But there's definitely he's got to protect himself, like you said.
Yeah, and then there were some moments of inaccuracy. I'm so sorry, I'm running on so little sleep. There were some moments of inaccuracy. Obviously, had the high miss to Hunter Henry on it was 3rd and 8. Yeah. That was like the only bad miss that I saw. And then he was trying to throw to Travion Henderson. Got it that time. There was an overload blitz coming from his left. He tried to hit Henderson live. I thought it was a drop. He threw it behind him, and that would have been a really tough grab to make. And that was a missed opportunity because he had some grass. It would have been at least a conversion, potentially a bigger play. So yeah, like 2 not great throws and some times where I thought, yeah, man, just kind of hang in the pocket. But when the guy's making so many other plays in the same situations, it's just about, okay, continue to grow, understand when you should stick in the pocket, when you really should be exploiting those rush lanes. And at times, like if it's 3rd and really long and you know that even if you have a decent amount of time, 2.5 seconds, it's going to be hard for any of your guys to get open. It's not the worst thing in the world for you to take off and know you have to buy time. Like some of that is strategic. So yeah, man, just what a performance. It looked as good on the tape as it did live. And I've said some games I don't necessarily feel that way and think there's a lot of meat left on the bone. This wasn't really one of those games. Outside of like a handful of plays, I really thought he was magnificent. Outside of structure, like we talk about Josh McDaniels and all the opportunities he creates, but you have to give Drake May a lot of credit for the fact that he's able to make some of these concepts work that would not work with other quarterbacks. And I think also Josh McDaniels, knowing the talent he has adjusted and been much more willing to have these downfield shots and let Drake May rip it. Like sometimes he'll just say, let's put Mondre and Travion in the backfield, chip the edges, knowing our interior is probably going to hold up pretty well in pass pro, and let Drake May cook downfield. And he did that several times. So just wow,
that's off to him. No, yeah. I mean, that's why I let you just go off on it for I don't even know how long it was, but it's true. Like it was outstanding. And you said the nitpicks. It's the self-protection, sure. The inaccuracy, sure. But, as we know with Drake, like he started some of these games a little bit slower and he's had those inaccuracies, the inaccuracy things. And then he bounces back. And as you see on screen here, he was 13 of 14 in the second half. He was 6 of 6 in the fourth quarter, had the 90 passing yards. Like when they needed him most, he made winning plays and he was locked in. It was incredible. It truly put him on the map. And to be frank, not that I was nervous about it, but I thought like, okay, we've seen it so far this year, but he hasn't done the primetime thing. He hasn't done the taking down a winning team thing. He hasn't done the last second comeback drive, and he put it all together in one game. He showed up for the moment. It was
exciting. He plays too. Like that was one of the biggest things. Did never put the ball in harm's way, which was probably, I was like, one time I feel like he's going to do it if there's going to be a miss in the coverage.
But I know. No, he did it. He protected the football. He did his thing. He was outstanding. He's the reason they won the game, and it really gives Patriots fans a lot of hope for this team. So, again, Drake May, outstanding stuff. Final stat line, as we know, 22 of 30. No touchdowns accounted for, oddly enough, because he didn't run for one, he didn't throw for one. But doesn't matter. That's basic stats. He was outstanding.
Almost had Hunter. Oh, my gosh.
I know.
So close.
Yep. He sure did. But, I did think they were going to get Stefon Diggs a touchdown in Buffalo. Unfortunately, they didn't make that happen either. But he is our next reason for optimism on this Patriots team. It's Stefon Diggs. He was also outstanding in his return to Buffalo. 10 catches, 146 yards on 12 targets. He also had 62 yards after the catch, which was a massive part of his game in this one. It wasn't just spot routes. It wasn't just getting the ball and go down. He was really making plays after the catch, getting downfield and setting them up to continue their drives. He had 8 first downs. And for the most part, was in the right place at the right time throughout the entirety of the game. Now, there was the one miscommunication early on that, it looked like maybe Diggs should have stopped or Drake could have kept throwing. I think it was more so, at least personally, I'll take the quarterback side more often than not. But it looked like Diggs could have sat down and kind of turned the other way and got going. But besides that, like the connection is there with these guys. These guys are truly on the same page. Diggs is only going to get healthier the farther away he gets from that ACL injury. So I don't even think this was Diggs' ceiling necessarily. He now has 100-plus yards in each of the last 2 games. He's 12th in the NFL now in receiving yards. So like he's putting up the numbers he used to put up, in his heyday. So even at 31, Diggs looked awesome. But, breaking it down a little bit further, what did you see from who I'm saying now is officially the Patriots' number one wide receiver?
And I think that's fine because the real hesitation was, okay, is Stefon Diggs going to look like this in the regular season with any level of consistency? Because it was kind of up and down in the summer where he'd really show up sometimes. At other times, honestly, you didn't really know why, but it felt like maybe he wasn't totally locked in. Like there were some really weird drops. It seemed like maybe some miscommunications or whatever. But now Diggs looks comfortable. Diggs looks, I don't want to say necessarily explosive, but I mean, for a 31-year-old coming off a torn ACL, he looks pretty freaking incredible. 100%. And he's the kind of receiver that I was hoping that Drake May and Josh McDaniels would be able to make the most of. Where no, he's not like the youngest and most spry, but he's a pro NFL receiver. And he knows how to do all these little things that other guys in the room might not be able to do. And not just knowing how to do them, but actually having the skill set to do it consistently. So yeah, man, I'm buying into Stefon Diggs. I'm not sure how many weeks we're going to go where he's not one of the lead targets, because just by what he put on tape, it's kind of like Hunter Henry, where to be honest, I don't love him against press man. I think that's where you really see where the lack of explosiveness comes, where like if somebody gets their hands on him, he does have a hard time getting off that. But that's what Josh McDaniels is for, and that's why he's playing the Z role in this offense and is no longer an X. That is just fine. There were two things that really stood out like thematically. One was the yards after catch. That is something we have not had from the Patriots. Obviously, we have Demario Douglas, but Drake doesn't throw to him nearly enough for that to be a legitimate skill. Drake's mostly throwing it. We get it from the running backs at times, but he really likes the tight ends and Kayshon Boutte, and neither one of those guys are really consistent yards after catch guys. And we weren't even really seeing it from Stefon Diggs early or in the summer, but now we are. So that first bootleg play, they actually ran it twice. He gets a short throw, makes two defenders miss, ends up getting 11 yards, which that just turns what should be those short gains where, okay, now it's second down. You have a first down and you have even more. Also broke a tackle from Taylor Rapp on a stick target in the open field, turned up, got 24 yards after the catch. Also, on that under that he actually dropped, they went back to the same play again later in the game. Instead of disguise cover 2, they actually played man Buffalo. Stefon Diggs was able to beat Trey White inside, then reversed field and got 11 yards after the catch on 3rd and 3. So that yards after catch element is something the Patriots, again, haven't had. It makes life so much easier on not just your quarterback, but everybody, because you don't have to do the dink dunk thing. You don't have to necessarily keep taking these downfield shots, which obviously you still want to. But again, it is just so much easier when short throws become first downs for your offense. They're not explosives, but they're really like the next closest thing. So that was great to see. Hope he can continue to kind of build on that. Also, his scramble chemistry with Drake May. He had it. It's kind of like with Matt Collins, where they both played with Josh Allen, where you really have to be very quick in making those adjustments, because if you don't know where you're supposed to go, well, he's running to the sideline, doesn't have that much room. You got to get open fast. Diggs took no time adjusting his routes, and I loved it. Quickly ID'd the coverage on the big scramble completion where he saw where the defender was, turned away from him, got upfield, and then made the contested grab along the sideline, which was going to be a theme because on that up, like I mentioned earlier, Drake May hit him on another scramble completion along the sideline. It was a little bit shorter, but this time Diggs did a phenomenal job. He was on the sideline already, kept the 1 foot in, and then dragged his feet to make sure he was in bounds. Like, that's the kind of veteran savvy that gets me excited, because with younger receivers, they don't make that play and you can't be mad at them, right? Because it's like, oh, you're used to, you're coming from college, all this stuff. No, Diggs been in the NFL for 10 years. He knows what he's doing and he's done it at a high level. Even if he's not explosive, those little nuances show up in his tape, and I thought that was fantastic. He also fought through coverage on that play. Like, he was covered pretty tight. Went upfield and then fought away, so I like that as well. And on that counter bash play, he didn't just stand there when Drake was going down. He alertly came back to the quarterback to make that a completion, because who knows, somebody else, if they charge downhill, maybe it's an interception or a pass breakup, then slid the tackle and turned that one into a first down, again, turning a short gain into a bigger one. Also on that corner route where he and Drake, I think they tried to connect on that in Miami and they weren't able to. It was still a low throw from Drake May, but the fact that Diggs was able to go behind him and low to scoop that off the turf was just, again, veteran receivers knowing how to maximize their opportunities. Outside of the drop, which we acknowledge, that's what he did consistently this weekend. I also think that he's been pretty solid as a blocker. So, and Courtney's saying, "Oh, Taylor, breathe." This is the first time I've had a reason to go on one of these rants, and it hasn't been a negative. So, I will take a breath now, but
Yeah.
as I was with Drake May, I don't want to say as impressed because Drake May, I'm like, dude, this dude is showing Hall of Fame potential. Way too early to say he should be going there, but I mean, the talent and the IQ are there, and the intangibles. But Stefon Diggs, another guy who, might be on his way to the Hall of Fame. He's making a strong case because in his, late career stint, now he's with Drake May, a guy who can make him a downfield threat, even when he doesn't necessarily have the juice to be the burner he used to. He's never been a burner. That's a little bit unfair. But to be the vertical threat that he used to be. So this connection is very exciting, and I'm just excited to watch it continue to blossom. And this is 2 weeks in a row where these guys have shown some significant growth in what they're able to do on the field.
Yeah, he's the connection and like the right place, right time thing for me.
Also not true. I'm sorry, but I never said that. When did I call him washed?
Michaela, find the clip, and if you can't prove it, then you're wrong.
I said he's no longer. I said he was no longer like a deep threat. Like he's not. No wide receiver one, but he's a Patriots wide receiver one. And when you have Josh McDaniels and Drake May, that's fine.
And he's showing that he's the wide receiver one that they need, right? And I said that on post game, but he's not going to be the 1,600-yard, 15 touchdown Stefon Diggs that we saw in Buffalo. He's not going to be burning guys on go routes as the X receiver along the sideline. But he's, again, right place, right time. He's showing some yak ability right now, which is massive because, it resets your set of downs. And instead of putting you at 2nd and 6, opens up the playbook there even further. There's so much good that Stefon Diggs has shown the last couple weeks. And he's someone that, and he's kind of been this he was it for Josh Allen. He was it, I guess, a little bit for CJ Stroud last year before he got hurt. But like a veteran presence that the trickle-down ability for the rest of the room just opens up that much for. He gives that much more. Gives you a go-to. Obviously, he already has Hunter Henry as another go-to, but it's been awesome. The last 2 weeks have been awesome. You said it best right there. And I'm actually laughing at the chat too because Courtney comes in and says, first of all, he says Hall of Fame. Hey, I'm not going to say Hall of Fame right yet. Like, obviously, saying, it's so early.
If you're scouting him, you give him a blue of like Hall of Fame potential because he's
the skills are there. No, it's all there. It's not. I mean, and he showed the kind of. It's not the last evolution, but the clutch factor, the ability to go on a game-winning drive. He showed that he at least has that in his repertoire too. Now, can he do it consistently? We'll have to wait and see. Super early, 17 starts, 23, yada yada yada. But the Stefon Diggs aspect here has truly opened it up even further. And also laughing at, I want to find it now, Mike checking his email. I'm not checking my email when I don't look. I look at my second screen because we have an outline I have to get us through. I have to hit our ad breaks. So I'm not just not paying attention all the time, even when I do turn away. But what I am doing now, because what I was checking, is that we have another ad break here. We're going to talk to you guys about Monarch Money before we get to a couple more reasons for optimism and wrap it up with some areas for improvement. But before we get into that, like I said, we're going to listen to a word from our friends at Monarch Money. We'll be right back. Like it or not, money is everything. And oftentimes, people have no idea where their finances are. Whether it's 401ks, investment accounts, or property, a lack of awareness leaves money on the table every single day. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Feel organized and confident in your finances with Monarch Money, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean interface on your laptop or phone. And right now, just for our listeners, Monarch is offering 50% off your first year. I started using Monarch recently, and I feel like I now have complete control over my portfolio because of it. The app is super easy to use, and it's also built for people with busy lives, juggling personal life, jobs, and more. Monarch is truly the best way to get a handle on your finances. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code PATRIOTS at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code PATRIOTS. Shout out Monarch. You heard it there, but best way to get a handle on your finances, whether you're working a couple jobs, whether you got personal life, you want to go out to dinner, you have investments, you have pets, you have children, money's all over the place. Bring it all together. monarchmoney.com. Again, use that code PATRIOTS. You get half off your first year. So again, if you're interested in that, do it that way because you get half off. Give stuff some love. Give Monarch some love. Again, monarchmoney.com. Use code PATRIOTS. You get half off your first year. All right, Taylor,
Before we move on, Michaela wants to know what a true one is. I think that is a fair question.
Okay.
I would consider a true number one a 3-level threat. like someone who you have to move coverage towards them because they're not just good deep. They're not just good after the catch. They are good at just about everything, and they dominate. Where you can put a Christian Gonzalez on them, and it'll be a battle. Where I'm trying to think if we saw that with like Brian Thomas Jr. That's a wide receiver one. Like he was giving Gonzo some problems in a way that I hadn't really seen anybody do up to that point where Gonzo's like kind of tripping in coverage, falling behind DK in his own way, where I know, I had my issues there as well because he has limitations. I was more upset about like the money, what that kind of message that sends. I had my reasons for not loving DK, but like you literally can't press the guy. He's that strong. Like Christian Gonzalez had to back off and change up his entire game plan. And he's someone who you've seen in Pittsburgh. He isn't as much of a downfield threat because of their offense, but he's dominating underneath. Right. That's what I consider. And he's not necessarily a great intermediate threat, but like he's still good. So I think at the very least, you need to be great after the catch and great downfield so that there is a level of variance to your game. Whereas I think Stefon Diggs, if he has the right quarterback, he can be more of a downfield threat. But if you give him guys who don't have the arm talent and accuracy that Drake May has, he can't really create a ton of separation deep downfield on his own. So that's why, in my opinion, he wouldn't walk onto most teams and be a wide receiver one. But on this team, where you do have a quarterback and offensive coordinator who can put you in great positions and allow you to just thrive because you're really good at certain things, like a Jacoby Myers when he was here. In this offense, yes, you can be, even though, it doesn't allow the offense to maximize its ceiling. Like if you had AJ Brown at X, that's a number one. That's where it's like every one-on-one matchup I would like to throw to him because I don't think anybody else can beat them. I don't see that with Stefon Diggs. And again, when he's pressed, it's there. Like against press coverage, he does get stuck. And that's just part of like torn ACL. He's getting older, not as explosive, maybe not quite as strong. So again, I don't want to go too deep into it, but that's the difference between the two wide receiver one types for me.
Not necessarily the wide receiver one we want. He's the wide receiver one we need in New England. It's true. Like, he's there. He's making it work for them. He's allowing the rest of the room to get better in the process. He's making life easier for Drake May. He's understanding Josh's system. He's not a 5 out of 10. He's a 10 out of 10 for this system. Like, he gets it already. It's pretty much all there, and that's exactly what they needed as a savvy veteran presence. But let's jump.
Now, Mikhail was talking about the week against Gonzo. Last thing I'll say, he routed him up intermediate, and I'll give you that. But again, like whenever
last year,
routes that we're talking about, there was the out route. I think he like converted or caught a touchdown, and then there was the one where he kind of shook Gonzo at the top, like that. Yes, he's a very good route runner, which is why again, he's not a bad player.
He's great. He's been awesome.
Like against Gonzo and press man all game, that is not going to go well for Stefon Diggs. I think he would tell you the same thing. Probably not. He's a sicko. But that's not. These are their levels to this shit.
100%. And he's been great. We're not yapping on the guy. We're not taking him down. He was a reason for optimism. He was outstanding, and he continues to get better. And maybe he does prove us wrong and become a legit number one wide receiver and have a 1,600-yard season. But no, he's been great, and that was the point of the segment. But moving to the defensive side of the ball, another piece of optimism here, this Patriots defensive front. Now, kind of similar to what happened with Barmore last year. Like, numbers-wise, they did only sack Josh Allen once, but, man, they made it tough on him all night long. Milton Williams had 4 tackles. He did register half a sack along with Jalen Hawkins on that play. Christian Barmore, 2 tackles, a quarterback hit. Harold Landry had 5 tackles, also registered a quarterback hit. They had Josh Allen running around like a maniac a little bit there. Obviously, Josh Allen was doing Josh Allen things and made some plays. Kyrus Tonga had a solid game, too. He got a shout-out from ESPN's Mina Kimes, which I thought was noteworthy on Twitter, because if Mina's watching, he was impressed by your tape, then just about anybody should be. But, this front for the Patriots has really continued to be one of their dominant sort of segments of this team. So what did you see what they did against Buffalo? How did they make it so difficult for them? And what did you see from these guys on Sunday that gives you a reason to be optimistic moving forward?
Also notice that I said defensive front this week and not pass rush, not defensive line. I mean defensive front, because I also really liked what the linebackers were able to do last week. Sure. Even Christian Ellis, who I've been pretty critical of, and I think fairly so, but I thought he was much more consistent. I really liked what I saw from these linebackers. But starting in the trenches, man, this interior is filthy. Christian Barmore is getting closer, it feels like, every week to looking more like he did in 2023. I think the run defense isn't quite there. There were some times where he gets blown off the ball against double teams, but he's also being used at nose tackle a lot more than he was in the past because of Milton Williams' presence. So I give him a bit of a pass there. but the pass rush is there. So he flushed Josh Allen like 3 times in the first quarter. One was with a bull rush when he was at nose tackle against the center. Another was an inside rip at nose tackle against the left guard. And another was an inside rip when he was at defensive end, where he split a block from the right tackle and the right guard. So we're seeing him line up in several different positions, and he's making an impact from all of them. He also got a hit kind of late in the rep where he bull rushed the center and was able to get to Josh Allen after he let go of the ball. Had a quick pressure against the left guard when he was at nose tackle, kind of hit him with power and knocked him off guard, then used a hump move to get past. Also created space for Milton Williams. There were a couple times where Williams either got to the quarterback or got pressures, and part of it was because of attention that Christian Barmore was drawing. And that's the thing we talk about, the pick your poison, where, people talked about when Milton Williams got signed. Oh, if he doesn't have his number ones, what's he going to do? First of all, that was proven to be bunk. But also, Christian Barmore still exists. That's a guy where you could argue like he's in that same conversation as a Jalen Carter, who can absolutely wreck games and who you need to show more attention to. And if you want to show more attention to Milton Williams, Barmore is just going to throw a guy at your quarterback. So I thought he was fantastic. Also in run defense, he had a really clean stack and shed for a tackle. Also made a couple tackles, in fact, to the backside of zone runs. Wound up on the ground a couple times again, but dude, he is a handful, and he's been really, really good, especially the past few weeks. Milton Williams had a quick win against a right guard, and that was on a play where the center slid to Christian Barmore. Milton Williams got off the ball like that, beat the interior of the line, and that was one where I had to question whether it was a draw because Josh Allen scrambled so fast. I was like, was that designed? Because I don't even think he made a read. It was because Milton Williams just cleaned this guy's clock. He also had a sack, and he made contact on line games. He kind of like split in the middle when there was some kind of twist. Also his sack, that was really well designed, by the way. Credit to Zach Core. It was something we kind of saw last year against Caleb Williams. When you know somebody's going to scramble, you don't just want to give them an avenue, especially against defensive linemen, where they can just come out of the back, especially to the right. So they used Jalen Hawkins. His blitz was basically to make sure that Allen stayed hemmed in, and you had a loop from Harold Landry. Those two presences basically split the guys that were covering Milton Williams. He wasn't blocked anymore, and then he went and got the sack. So, I mean, it's not, a +2 rep on PFF or anything, but still opportunistic play by him, and just shows how this defensive front can create confusion, they can create conflict, and they have the horses to be able to capitalize when those opportunities present themselves. In run defense, they lined up Milton Williams as a defensive end in their base packages to just basically wreck these very good blocking tight ends for the Bills, and it worked, especially earlier on in the game before Buffalo kind of went away from their base stuff. Also, Milton held up on the inside on a short run. He got stuck on a couple blocks. There was one James Cook cutback where he got washed down the line and kind of read it late. There's also a play in the red zone where he blew up the right guard, like put the dude on skates and knocked him down, but he didn't actually see James Cook take the ball. So that wasn't great. But the defensive tackles are really good. Then getting to Khyiris Tonga. Not a ton of pass rush from him outside of like one where he got a good bull rush, but the run defense. So he made a tackle from the backside of power, which is not something that happens very often. Usually that's very much a front side kind of play. Shows the kind of player Tonga is. Also made some plays to the backside of some zone runs. Shut down the inside anytime they tried to cut back towards his area or really just run at him. And there was a TFL that Harold Landry had, and I'll talk about in a second, where he knocked the right guard back, almost nullified by Joshua Farmer penalty. So Khyiris Tonga, man, the effort to chase down plays from the backside that he showed in that game, and just his ability to dent the offensive line and really create knockback, that there were times where Cook had to kind of put his hand on a blocker and wait to see something develop because of Tonga resetting the line. So the interior was really good. Harold Landry had some moments, as well as he does every week. Had some quick wins against the right tackle on inside moves. There was a double swipe, there was a spin move, and there was a swim move. So him kind of going into his bag and showing the different ways that he's able to win. Also had really good discipline, I thought, throughout to mitigate some of the scrambles. There were some times where he kind of got pinned inside by a couple of blockers, but I think he was very smart. He was used as a spy when he was on the edge, and there were some different kind of ways they wanted to attack Josh Allen. Did a good job of not just flying upfield, kind of staying in an area where he was able to close to the quarterback and mitigate some scrambles. So I like that as well. In terms of run defense, he beat a left tackle as a puller for a TFL on that play I mentioned. Joshua Farmer looked like he might have thought that James Cook was pitching it back to Josh Allen, but he didn't have to hit him as hard as he did. Like, I want to give the rookie a pass there for just like, it's kind of a bang, bang play, but you could have just like slapped him. He didn't have to
Right.
just full on pile onto him. There's some times that Landry got moved at the point of attack a little bit, but for the most part, solid day from him. And then the guys on the edge that were making up for the loss of K'Lavon Chaisson, no one made K'Lavon Chaisson's impact. That dude is a really good pass rusher. I still don't think people realize he's not a leader or anything, but he's a really quality player. And he's well-rounded. I thought Keon was solid. He made some plays from the backside against the run. He was stout a couple times, knifed inside on a stunt. Just not a ton of wow plays, but also not a ton of terrible mistakes outside of Deion Dawkins did mess him up on one play. He kind of slapped his arm so Keon fell, and then he just kind of got bullied after that. That was kind of rough. But for the most part, I thought Keon was fine. Anthony Jennings was fine. Elijah Ponder actually had a couple good bull rushes, I thought. There was also a play where he got pinned inside, let Josh Allen get outside the pocket, but he chased him down. I really liked the effort and the closing speed I saw from him. So K'Lavon Chaisson was a significant loss for the Patriots, but I think the guys that filled in for him did a good enough job. And again, just played disciplined enough to mostly keep Josh Allen from being able to make bigger plays with his legs, which you knew he was going to do, but could have been a lot worse. And then Robert Spillane, dude, tackling freaking machine. Not only was he good against the run, like him and Tonga are the heart of this run defense, but also to force the fumble, see that Keon Coleman kind of had the ball in one hand and to punch that thing out. And also the number of times he was able to close ground on Josh Allen to keep the quarterback from just I think Allen had 2 explosive runs. One was where Spillane was just trying to take a crossing route and was a little bit out of position, not really through any fault of his own, just because of how the play went. And then Allen kind of took off in the space where he was. But 2 explosive runs against Josh Allen and a couple scramble plays, considering what happened throughout the game, I'm not mad about. So Spillane, I thought he had a really good game in multiple phases. Again, Christian Ellis, much more consistent as a tackler. I thought his instincts looked improved as well. Didn't seem like he got lost at all. And Jack Gibbons, there's this thing called robot technique. And that's something that I think Vrabel calls it panic, where fake, and you bite on the run. If you just back up, you're not going to do anything because you're not looking at anybody. So what they coach you to do, some defenses, is to turn around and just, if you see a crossing route or anybody kind of in your area, you chase and try to get under it. Jack Gibbons fully bit on the flea flicker. Understandably, the running back had the football and somehow managed to bail out and still get his arm in between Curtis Samuel and the ball, where Samuel had to catch it through him. That was one of the best robots on a completion that I've ever seen. And I thought, again, he was also part of that mix of just being very good and taking smart angles. And when any of these guys miss tackles, the defense did such a great job.
The rallying is insane. Yeah.
Every week. And it's it's really hard to get upset when a guy misses. Sometimes there's certain instances where it's your technique was pretty sloppy there. Right. But when you constantly have other people to the ball, you saw this with Bills defenses as well. I think they were just a little bit more consistent. But this is a defense that really flies around in a different way than we've seen from some of the other Belichick defenses. And these linebackers were a big part of that. So this whole defensive front, to hold James Cook in the Bills with no explosive designed runs for the first time this season. And then I think Patriots Communication put out, let me find it, because it's actually a pretty wild stat.
The rallying to the football while you find it was just super impressive to me, because that just shows if you're not going to get the stat, you still need to be there just in case, and then you can end up getting a tackle. There were a couple times where guys looked like they'd miss, and then all of a sudden there's 6-7 Patriots coming in just ready to hit them again. And now we'll get to the penalties. Sometimes I wonder if it's all right, you're just going to hit a guy as the whistle blow. You get an unnecessary roughness for 11 guys jumping on the pile. But if you can do it smartly, that's the way to go. So I thought that was outstanding. And that really shows they're in it to be a scrambling defense that's going to punch you in the mouth and kind of be there all together as one unit.
Yes, sir. And to punctuate that, the Patriots, according to Patriots Communications on Twitter, are the only team in the NFL to not have allowed a 50-yard rushing game from a running back through the first 5 games. That's pretty damn good.
Legit. Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's some games where, the run defense wasn't quite as stout, but really, it's hard to complain. I think statistically, there's still, a top 3 run defense or something like that, which this attacking front, some undersized guys, I admitted going into the season, I was a little bit hesitant about the run defense. They shut my ass up, and I'm glad they did. They've been fantastic. And the pass rush, too. You look at the pressure numbers, may not have been great, but there were a lot of times they were only rushing 4, and the Bills were going max protect on play action dropbacks and giving Josh Allen a ton of time. So, yeah, this defensive front continues to impress. And I was very encouraged by what we saw from the linebackers, because there's not many more explosive quarterback running back duos than Josh Allen and James Cook, and they were able to really keep those guys hemmed in. So massive credit to those guys. Also for the linebackers playing to their depth and not giving up any plays to the running backs as well.
Want to get to a couple of comments here. First of all, Cam O'Shaughnessy, shout out for becoming a new member here on Patriots Press Pass. Ton of exclusive content coming your way, so appreciate that. And a super chat here, $5 from D. Do y'all think it's time to move on from Keon White because he's doing nothing? What can they do to stop tight end? So you mentioned a little bit from Keon there, but he was kind of quiet. Now we got more of an opportunity because of Chason being out, but where are you at on Keon White at this point in the season?
Yeah. If someone wanted to trade like a 4th round pick, they don't have great depth, so I wouldn't love it. But Keon is about to be 26 years old, or he is 26. Isn't showing the growth that I was hoping for, where there are some times where he's on the edge where he just looks like he's still learning. So, and I think, to be fair, I don't know what kind of team would give up that kind of capital.
Right.
I'm not going to cut him. Like, if anything, I think that you see how much he grows by the end of this offseason. You hope that he can produce some numbers and, increase his efficiency like he did last season, so that, okay, at least statistically and the film, there's something to work with where a team knows that he has some elite potential. And we have seen him inside some more, so maybe that'll happen. But I don't think you move on from him quite yet. But if somebody wanted to throw a decent pick at you, like a mid-round pick, I'm not even thinking about it. Because I think you can get a guy off the street who could just be solid for you, and, you got to rely on your guys being good. But yeah, I still think Keon's been solid. Like, he hasn't been bad, but I also just don't think he's been great. And I was expecting greatness for him with this coaching staff and in this system. Yeah.
All right. Well, we have one more piece of optimism here to get to. And then, unfortunately, what we will do is get to a couple nitpicks at the end. We're not going to go crazy on them, but it wasn't a perfect game, even though they did win this game. So we will get to that. But first, I got to quickly tell you guys about a new sponsor here over at Raycon. Again, this message is sponsored by Raycon. It's their anniversary, and what better way to celebrate than with a deal on everyday earbuds classics. They are 20% off, so it's the perfect time to get your hands on these new Raycon earbuds. Again, they're the everyday earbuds classics, and they are loaded with upgrades, including active noise cancellation, multi-point connectivity, so you can pair them with 2 devices at once, and they also have an ergonomic fit that actually stays in your ears no matter what you're doing. 10 minutes on a charge gives you up to 90 minutes of playtime, and they also have up to 32 hours of battery life with the case. They also have an awareness mode built in, which is perfect when you're walking the dog, running errands, or anything, so you won't miss a beat. And there are over 3 million customers who already love Raycon. They also come with a 30-day happiness guarantee. So if you want to get in on it, go to buyraycon.com/PCS to get 20% off the everyday earbuds classics. Again, go to raycon.com, raycon.com/PCS, 20% off the everyday earbuds classics. All right.
Real quick.
Again, yeah.
Sorry. Did you see Jonathan Gannon got fined?
Yeah, $100,000.
I've never seen that before.
So what he did, I thought was
ridiculous. Deserved. Yeah. Bro.
Yeah, right.
Weird.
It's kind of wild for a team to fine you that much money. Clearly, that's saying like, well, I mean, I heard people saying fireable offense today. I mean, maybe that's them being like, look, we're not going to can you, but that shit's not going to fly here because. I mean, he went up and he basically hit him in the chest. And I get being pissed off with something like that. Those are the kind of things in the game, like, you can't do it. You can't drop the ball at the goal line. Like, just stop freaking doing it. It makes me so mad. But as a coach, we've seen it with Mike Vrabel. You got to have your players back. You got to keep your composure. And it's even one thing if you brought him in the, in the facility, and obviously don't put your hands on the guy like he did, but, gave him a stern talking to him, be like, we can't do this shit. But what he did was awful. And again, it's crazy that he got the fine, but I think it's deserved.
And it showed just a weird lack of awareness. Like, the guy is being consoled by a teammate and you scream. Right. Like, I get being pissed. Sure. There's got to be a better time, though. Like, he's clearly upset and you scream at him, and then, I also feel like it's the football thing where it's like, oh, you hit him in the pads, but, like, don't put your hands on that man. You don't.
I know.
That was weird. That was a really weird situation, and I wouldn't have been mad if they did fine him. It's like, what does that say about how you lead? Freaking,
Right.
what's his name? Urban Meyer got fired for kicking somebody, which is that's different. That's different. That was insane.
That's straight up disrespectful. But
right. But yeah, I'm glad they fired him and sent some kind of message because that was a horrible look for their
bad look.
Horrible.
Yeah. And again, I get being pissed. And that's the thing where like, I mean, shit, if the next day they cut him and we're like, we can't have that. That's how you lose football. If they cut DeMercado, like that's one of those things where it's like, that was a really bad mistake. Like there's an ability to again, be super pissed off and have repercussions, but to yell at the guy, like with cameras in your face and give him a shot to the chest, like, yeah, it just can't happen. Like that's not how you go about these type of things. And again, I think DeMercado made a brutal mistake. Can't have it. No excuses. But you don't put your hands on a guy and you don't bitch him out on the sideline like that. And so the fine was deserved. There was a much better way to handle it. And yeah, I mean, and again, Gannon apologized the next day. Not that it matters, the toothpaste was out of the tube, but like it was crazy. Yeah. So $100,000 fine for Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon for his actions on Sunday. All right. One more piece of optimism here, Taylor, before we nitpick some things. It was the Patriots cornerbacks who Christian Gonzalez comes back for his second day, his second game this season, had a couple pass breakups on that final drive to help hold the Bills to 3 points, which was massive. He came up clutch. Marcus Jones had the interception, also had a pass defense. And Carlton Davis after the game I thought was great. He was like, it's not me. It's not just me and Gonzo. It's me, Gonzo, and Marcus Jones. It's the three of us back there. We're three cornerbacks, and we're essentially not verbatim, but we're really damn good. So what did you see from those guys in the back end that gave you promise for this team moving forward?
So it wasn't a perfect day, and I do want to acknowledge that first. Like, Marcus Jones was more up and down once I watched the tape, but it was still the fact these guys were making plays and were a big reason that they were able to have success in this game. So had to give them their flowers. Basically, I'm covering pretty much the entire defense except for the safeties.
Sure.
We'll talk about that later. But the positive for Christian Gonzalez were his plaster plays, where the first one against Keon Coleman, he's in man coverage, extended play. Josh Allen buys a ton of time late in the game, stays right on Coleman's hip. Everywhere he goes, Gonzo's there, follows him to the end zone. Keon Coleman makes the catch, but because Gonzo's coverage was so close or sticky, whatever, he ended up out of bounds. And you also had the play where he comes from like outside. So this was a play where Khalil Shakir basically was targeted over the middle of the field. Gonzo saw him, chased him down, and then was able to keep his eye on the ball and bat it down to prevent, like, if you're not looking at it, maybe that's pass interference, but Gonzo's smarter than that. Kept his eye on the ball and got it. He did give up a couple crossing routes. There was one in zone, came from across the field. I think Gonzo saw it coming, but he kind of drifted upfield, and that allowed for an easier completion. Whereas if he kind of stayed there, because there was no threat really for him to get deeper. So if he had kind of held his ground, he might have been able to lay a physical hit and dislodge that. There was also a crosser against Keon Coleman. I think he got a little cocky and tried to play the football, because he started looking at Josh Allen once Keon Coleman had broken off his route. And like Coleman had a step and Gonzo was looking at the ball. And then you saw him, I think he was trying to grab to like, or get a feel for where Keon Coleman
is he?
was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then realized he wasn't exactly there. Still like almost made a play on it. But ended up giving up a catch for an explosive. So there were those two things, but overall thought he looked better. There was also some stuff in run defense where it wasn't great, but until it's like an egregious problem and the run defense is just getting gashed every week, it is what it is. That's your all-pro corner. I'm not pissed that he's not really, the most physical run defender. Marcus Jones, lot of positive plays. So he had the great closing speed on the interception. It was like a quarters coverage where they had man on the outside. So they were basically trying to squeeze the intermediate middle of the field with the safeties. They were running a concept where basically you had, I think it was pretty much dagger, where there was a seam route. The safeties had squeezed that, and then you had the dig coming behind it. Marcus Jones was trailing it. Hawkins was on the top, about to close. So when we said, like, Josh might have thrown a little bit behind, he was trying to make sure he didn't throw his guy into the closing safety. Marcus Jones, great closing speed, cut right under it for the interception. That was a fantastic play. The pass breakup against Keon Coleman, slot fade, that's a really tough matchup for a guy like Marcus Jones. I think Keon Coleman has like 8 inches on him, maybe. 8,
yeah,
maybe
probably.
Like, that's a big height disadvantage. And it was tight coverage, really good job to smother him there. Actually, like, transitioned to safety during an adjustment in the red zone and kind of chased down a receiver and helped take away a potential throw for Josh Allen. He had a third down stop. He made the tackle on that really weird I don't even think he was allowed to do this. A little flick that Josh Allen did where he was getting sacked.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Marcus Jones made the tackle there. There was also a blitz where he went up against a guard and got hit in the face and actually still got in the backfield. So I was pretty impressed by that. Also, really quick trigger in the red zone to stuff a run, which we always expect from Marcus Jones. So those were good. Some of the bad, he was part of the miscommunication that it looked like Carlton Davis gave up. And if you had just asked me with no context, I would have said it was Davis. But after I asked him after the game, he said they had practiced a certain way of passing those off, and it just didn't go the way that they had seen in other games. I tried to track it down. I'm still not really sure what play they were talking about exactly. But as upset as Carlton was, like, he looked upset. I thought he was looking for a push off. He was looking at Marcus being like, that was like, you were supposed to take that guy.
Yeah.
So whatever it was, it seemed like Marcus was at fault there. He was caught trailing on a mesh concept. I don't know if he probably should have bubbled over and given himself a better chance. But he was behind, didn't get picked or anything, but it was just a long way to chase the guy, and that wound up being a chunk gain. And he gave up a conversion to Khalil Shakir on a slant. Not terrible. The touchdown, you want to be better, but that's also a tough spot if you're expecting one thing and you get something you've never seen before. Still the NFL, the other guys get paid too. For the most part, a really good performance from Marcus Jones. More quiet day from Carlton Davis, which, hey, I'll take it. I am mad at that. No penalties. I'm good. He actually drew a penalty. So that was pretty great. Had tight coverage on the back shoulder completion to Keon Coleman. Yes, it was complete. Again, other guys get paid too. I don't know how much more Carlton could have done in that situation. Also, a perfectly timed blitz from Zach Kuhr. Carlton Davis, I think it was the first time that slot blitz actually worked.
Oh, yeah.
Blitz worked, to be honest. But the Bills weren't accounting for it. He had an unblocked pressure. Josh Allen tried to check it down to James Cook. James Cook dropped it. So that was a really good play. His only real negative that I saw was missing a tackle on Josh Allen in space, but like, a lot of guys do that.
What are you going to do? Yeah, right. It's Josh Allen.
Than you. Like, Josh Allen is one of the few quarterbacks that's significantly bigger than one Carlton Davis. So, yeah, more good than bad from the corners. And the bad wasn't anything so egregious that I'm worried about it. It's more just, Christian Gonzalez is probably like Christian Barmore. Guys who miss time, you got to get more comfortable, incremental growth, all that stuff. But, yeah, really good stuff from this cornerback group that we thought would be a strength. And now that Gonzo's back in the lineup, it's actually starting to feel that way.
The trickle down is there. It's good to see Gonzo back and playing his game. Good to see Davis, like you said, not have, a game where we're talking about it the entire time. It's good when you're quiet from the corner because you're just, making your plays. And then Marcus Jones, man, like, yes, we know he's a weapon on special teams, but his ability to do it on defense as well. I mean, it shows why he's a captain because he's so versatile and he's not only a leader, but can also play multiple spots on this team, make impact plays, not just as a special teamer, but a massive interception that really turned the tides for them early in this game. So, again, so many reasons to be optimistic. Along the defense, obviously the offense, Stefon Diggs, Drake May, all those guys really put this together and were the reason why it was a true team 23-20 win against this Buffalo team. So that's all the reasons for optimism. Now, I don't want to go too deep into this because they did win the game. It was super special. And I'm not just saying that. Like, again, I said it off the top. I was really excited for this game before. This is a massive win for this franchise. So, there was so much good here. But on the other end, let's nitpick it, and I'll give you the floor. We won't even break it off into segments because, again, Ramondre fumbles. The run game wasn't great. 71 yards on 22 carries. They only had one long run. Antonio Gibson's now out. There were, a handful of penalties that probably weren't great. The red zone defense lets up 2 touchdowns out of 4 trips to the Bills. So they weren't super there, but what did you see from this game that you think, again, moving into Saints week, which is a game they should win, they should go and kind of rattle off a couple here. What do the Patriots need to do to tie up the loose ends, tighten the bolts and get this thing moving truly in, an elite direction?
Yeah, so the good, I'll start off with that. This is another week where misdirection runs worked in their favor. They had that fake power toss. They had an explosive to Travion Henderson. That was their only explosive run of the day, and it led to one of Ramondre Stevenson's touchdowns. Those are really good. Ramondre's other touchdown was some really great blocking from Mac Hollins, from Hunter Henry, and from Austin Hooper. Those were the good. Also, and this is unfortunate because he's out for the season, Antonio Gibson was running that pill on outside zone. That was the first time in a while that it felt like they were consistently getting chunks of yards on the ground game and okay, they're actually building towards something. And that was hitting to both sides of the offensive line. So there were some positives there. Bad. So I'm not going to – we're going to kind of do our rookie report tomorrow, so I'm not going to get too deep into the rookies. And also, you understand they're going to be inconsistent. but Jared Wilson has really had trouble on like maintaining double teams, getting pushed. That's a big part of this. It's really the same things. Like Garrett Bradbury's inconsistent. Mike Mwanu had some good second level blocks, but he also missed some as well. I thought the skill players struggled as blockers, and it sucks to say because they had some of the most impactful runs in the game, but also like on downhill runs, I don't know if Josh McDaniels has to adjust what he's doing, but they just keep getting blown up by these teams with bigger defensive ends, and it's like I can't really get mad at them. I don't know what you expect them to do. So yeah, I really thought that like Matt Collins missed some blocks. The tight ends just weren't able to sustain very much, and that really hurts because it's not just like, oh, they're just barely holding on, which is what you expect in those situations. Like they're getting blown up, and then guys are in the backfield, and it suffocates the areas that the running backs actually have to go. So the run game, I just don't know if it's going to be a strength of this Patriots team, to be honest. I think that Bradbury is who he is at this point. Like, so smart and good in pass protection, but he's going to be super boom and bust as a run blocker. Again, 2 rookies to the left side, one who should probably be a center and isn't going to get the push when he's really mostly working by himself that you want. He's not going to sustain the way you want, I think, which is maybe unfortunate. And also maybe he just needs an offseason to get stronger. That also happens with a lot of these guys coming out of college. And yeah, just you got these duo runs. I don't know if you got to go jumbo or what, but a lot of the times these skill players are not getting it done, and it's really hurting. They did enough, like they ran enough to stay on schedule, but there were also times where negative runs put them off schedule, and then that led to times where they had to punt. So I'm really worried about this run game, especially now that they don't have Antonio Gibson, because he was maybe the one guy that I felt like consistently was getting you chunks. Like Mondre's shown the flashes, but it felt like more often than not, Antonio Gibson's touches were going the right way, whereas I think the other guys, I feel like they're hitting more of like a 25-30% clip.
Yeah. The fumbling issue, I know there's not much to really say on it with Ramondre, but is there anything more you can do now, especially with Gibson out? Probably not, right? You just got to keep letting him play through it, as awful as it sounds.
Got to play it by game.
I know.
Situations.
All right, well, before we close it out, just thoughts on the penalties across the board from this team. Kayshon Boutte had a couple.
There was one more thing also, red zone defense.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's quick, too. It was 2 touchdowns.
Talk about it. Red zone defense. What do you see? Again, they went 2 for 4. Against them, Buffalo scored 2 touchdowns on their 4 trips. I think they let up field goals on the other 2. How do they fix that? What do they got to improve there?
So I wouldn't have brought this up because it was 50-50. And like I said, one of those was something they hadn't seen yet. But it's motion that keeps giving this team problems, pass and run. And it's because, and I'm curious, I'm going to try to find a way to ask Vrabel about this where I'll actually answer. But it's not like other Patriots teams where guys had their role. Like if a slot receiver goes across the field, Marcus Jones is following him. Like safeties are never covering wide receivers. In this system, it's more like what the Lions do, where the Lions, like with Brian Branch, they use him as a safety and a true slot corner. So they're comfortable bumping their kind of secondary over. So the slot defender and the safeties kind of work in tandem in certain situations, especially in man. And that can create some hesitation. And or rather, when it does create hesitation against motion, that creates problems. Jalen Hawkins literally hesitated for a split second. He and Marcus Jones, it was like kind of a zipper motion where it looked like orbit, and then he came back out. I think it was Khalil Shakir. They exchange responsibilities, and Jalen Hawkins knows who he has, but there's literally one split second where he stops, and then he gets beaten by speed because you've got a very fast receiver against a safety with pretty good closing speed and range, but not good enough for that kind of situation. And then again, the motion creating a miscommunication in the end zone, which you just never want to see, those miscommunications. I don't really care what you see. You need to have some kind of plan so that you don't get burned so badly that nobody's even covering the guy who got the touchdown.
Right.
And I mention this because like teams have used motion to get Craig Woodson slightly out of his alignment, and that creates opportunities for backs. So I'm just curious what their plan is going to be moving forward and how they respond specifically to motion in the red zone, because that to me right now is probably their biggest problem on defense.
I'm going to you mentioned Craig Woodson, so it kind of jogged my memory. So shout out Pats Communications for doing a good job here. Craig Woodson, first rookie defensive back since Derwin James to record 4 tackles for loss for the first 5 games of the season. So I know that he struggled in that. We were talking about the bad on the red zone defense, but Craig Woodson overall looking like an impact player on this defense. Who you said it before the season, he could be doing just that. But all right, close it out now. We're an hour and 15 minutes into this one. So shout out everybody for staying on, tuning in. breaking it down with us, 1,800 of you across all social channels. But one last thing, penalties. Kayshon Boutte had a couple. The Vidarian Lowe false start, which everybody kind of got upset about, which I understand. There was a Fugazi, unnecessary roughness on Brennan Schooler. But, overall, I know Mike Vrabel talks about some of them are not unavoidable, but you're going to have penalties in the game of football. You just got to do your best to clean it up. But what'd you make of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 penalties, I believe, on the Patriots?
Yeah, so not all of these are created equal. I'm going to go down them really fast. So Will Campbell got called for offensive holding, was offset by a Taylor Rapp penalty, a rookie against Joey Bosa, post-snap. I'm not going to really, throw my hat about it. Kayshon Boutte had 2 bad ones. He had the face mask that was very obvious, and then he had the false start. Both on drives where you're trying to score in 2 minutes. Can't have that. You don't usually think of Kayshon Boutte as someone who makes those mental mistakes, so not going to pile on him. He's done far more good than bad, and he even did in that game. But 2 egregious penalties on the same drive. You can't have that. Harold Landry's neutral zone infraction. Drink.
Line up on sides. Line up on sides. I hate those so much. But.
And it's why, I didn't like that I asked Vrabel that question because I feel like he, I usually like to ask something a little more in depth. Yeah, I don't think it's something you can answer very well. I think he did as best as he could, but I was like, what do you do about this? Like, is it an emphasis? Why does this keep happening? Because you're talking, it's not like it's rookies. These are veterans who've been in the NFL for a long time who, for some reason, can't line up the right way. And he was upset clearly with Hunter Henry asking if he's lined up in the right spot. So I don't know if guys aren't checking if the officials are just being jerks. And also, by the way, so I'll get to that when we get to Hunter Henry. But line up. Oh my God, it's so weird. It's the most odd thing. Please. Okay. The Brendan Schooler unnecessary roughness, stupid.
Nonsense. Yeah.
He made physical contact. If he had shoved the guy, I get it. He nudged him, kind of.
Yeah.
And he threw a flag. Stupid, ridiculous. That should never have been thrown. The Corey Durden roughing the passer. He did that shit. He hit him in the head.
He can't do that. Yep.
I like Durden. I actually think he's been a sneaky, very solid addition for them. A big body who's been an integral part of their run defense. There are times where they have packages with no Barmore or Milton Williams. It's Kyrus Tonga. It's Corey Durden. It's Joshua Farmer. Those guys have done a pretty good job. But yeah, you just got to be smarter about that, Corey. Joshua Farmer's unnecessary roughness. Like I said,
don't do it. Same thing.
Don't hit him that hard. You don't have to do. Even if you heard the whistle late, he's already down. Vidarian Lowe, the false start.
Poor Vidarian.
No one is a bigger advocate of Vidarian Lowe than I am, but I have said since last year, one of my biggest gripes with his game outside of his run blocking is his inability to go a game without a silly penalty. And I asked him about it, and he has kind of acknowledged that sometimes, when he comes into if he has to come into the game cold, I think it happened against the Bengals, his first snap, he got a false start. And it is a hostile environment, I understand, but it's just it's a pattern, so it's kind of but that is what it is. That's a player who doesn't play very much for you. And then the defensive pass interference for Jack Gibbons, that wasn't really that bad. He thought that Vrabel said that he thought Josh Allen was out of the pocket. So honestly, it would have been a really smart play.
Smart play, yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't realize. So, that was a very, that's right on the line. I'm not upset about that one. Sure. But yeah, the only ones that I really thought were bad were the very low false start, the Corey Durden illegal hit, roughing the passer. The necessary roughness was kind of on the line, in the neutral zone infraction and the Boutte ones. Those are mostly
they're fixable too.
Penalties. And the Hunter Henry one. So just talk about briefly, and then we'll close out. What is that? Why, as an official, are you not doing everything in your power to help a player who's trying to make sure he's doing the right thing? That's where people say, the refs want the attention. That's why they say it. Because what other reason do you have to do it other than, look, I threw my flag? It's so obnoxious, and there's no justifiable reason for it other than you want attention, or you're just being a stickler and don't understand your role within the grand scheme of an actual NFL football game. So, be better. These officiating crews have sucked every weekend. That's mean. That's a lot. They have hard jobs. I want to be fair.
But it's as a whole, I get it. You don't want to criticize them. They do have hard jobs, but that one specifically, it's one thing if Henry is just not looking and no, I was on the line. What do you mean? But when you're pointing over, giving a thumb, that's the ref's job. Yeah, that is the referee's job, is to put you on the line. I am on the line. It is me. I'm the end line guy. Please make sure that I'm on the line, and this is where you want me. So for him to be trying to communicate that, it's like, what, like you said, you're literally just trying to make it about you. So that was completely obnoxious, but
very weird.
Yeah. At any rate, okay.
Penalties weren't the worst thing in the world, but there were some that like you can absolutely just be smarter about them.
Totally. One more super chat. Caveman Curtis. Taylor, have you ever watched Samurai Champloo? If not, you should. Super good miniseries.
Ooh, let me see. I haven't. Oh, 2004. So it probably hits. How many episodes? Was it 1 season? 2 seasons? Oh, wow. The second season's 24 episodes. Oh, that's a lot. That might have to be an off-season activity.
Yeah.
Thank you, Caveman Curtis. I will check it out at some point. But oh my, I can barely even watch
time
with Liz. I'm struggling over here. So, but yes, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the super chat as well. And on that note, like you said, we don't have a ton of time. We're going to try and turn around a Drake May film breakdown tomorrow, along with a rookie report. So keep it here on Patriots Press Pass as we continue breaking down the Patriots 23-20 upset win over the Bills this weekend, putting New England back on the map in the NFL. Super exciting slate of games coming up as well. A couple winnable games against the Saints, against the Browns. There's another one in there. Who do they have against after New Orleans? I can't even remember.
New Orleans, Atlanta,
Cleveland.
It's a decent team after that. It's the Bucs.
Oh yeah, so Tampa that'll be a tough thing. That Baker Mayfield's playing some of the best quarterback you'll ever see in the league. Another top tier battle between.
We had an out of body experience last week. That was crazy.
Yeah, but at any rate, fun stuff around New England and the Patriots. So we thank you guys as always for tuning in, taking the time, sticking it out with us over the last hour and a half almost that it was. We appreciate you. We're gonna go get some rest and try it again. We'll do a Drake May film breakdown tomorrow. TBD on the time, but we're going to try and get out to our members first and then come back and post it on the channel after. So keep it locked in here, Patriots Press Pass. Rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, Taylor, good stuff as always. Thanks for doing this, and thank you all for tuning in. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other, and we'll see you next time. Peace out, everyone.